Uh, and now we are ending our series by talking about the words that we use in ritual and how to empower all of you to participate in this tradition of spoken prayer that is a part of our practice. So, just as an initial icebreaker, does anyone want to share what you might want to have as a goal to write about today, or what kind of prayer you might want to have by the end of today's class? Amy, I'm calling on you first.
Uh, at the end of today's class, actually, I think what I'm most looking forward to is hearing what we come up with all together. Um, there's something about a prayer that comes from many hearts and many voices that is so different from one that speaks to just our own need or uh, desire or devotion. Yeah. Should I
Share that.
popcorn it at somebody?
Sure.
What about you, Jackie?
Uh, I don't know. Um, I've not written my own prayers for Bridget or Epona, or Minerva. So maybe I'll do something for one of them. I don't know. But that's sort of I've been thinking about like who have I not written a prayer for that I could. So it's helps narrow down the list. Um, Rose, how about you?
Um, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of like set prayers that I offer to anybody yet. Um, I know that in the last several months, I've definitely felt a shift of who I've been working with. So it'd be cool to write something for them as like, hey, I've been working with Odin more. It'd be cool to write something for him. Um, but in general, I'm curious to learn anything really. I've been starting to get involved with some liturgy groups for various communities. So I've been starting to actually write some of these sorts of things for the public, and I'm nervous about that.
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's great, of course, but like, your internal.
Rachel, how about you?
Um, I so I'm going to mention this later on in the kind of in the wrap up, but I'll give you guys a little bit of a teaser now. Um, every November, the Druid community of ADF does prayer a day. We do it in the month of November, and prayer a day allows folks to find words and use words to create prayers for whatever their heart desires. And often I sit down and I write a theme about what it is I want to pray to. And oftentimes I really love praying to my ancestors. I knew who my ancestors were, at least the ones in my immediate family, who have all gone before me. Um, so I think I'm looking forward to really finding um, solace isn't quite the word I'm looking for, but finding validation in the use of just words in order to make offerings to the kindreds three. I pray more throughout my day just off the top of my head than I do sitting at an altar, right? When we have community members who ask for offerings, I literally just bow my head and say, may you take ancestors three, may you take care, kindred three, may you take care of this person. And that is usually what I am able to do. I do not always, I'm not always at my altar. I sometimes don't even have the stuff to make offerings from my altar. So words are really what I have to give. And I think this class is really empowering for just how important words are. When we're in the middle of whatever it is we're doing on our day to day, whether we're sitting in a car in traffic and we see somebody who's homeless, and sending up a prayer for them and just saying, hey, I hope you're safe, I hope you're okay, may the gods take care of you. So yeah, words. I'm just hoping for validation, I think, from this class. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. So it sounds like we have like a mix of a desire to prepare specific prayers by the end of this class, but also just a desire to have some validation of this as a valid part of our practice, as a powerful part of our practice, and a part of our practice backed by history and group tradition. So I think we'll be able to do that today. So to get us started, I want to start by just giving us some information about to think about as we explore the power of words today. So how they've functioned historically and spiritually in prayer, especially in pagan practices, and ultimately how we can empower each other with the skill and courage to find and use our own voices in ritual. So we're going to start with some of the old ways. I've got some notes. So our Indo-European ancestors, and again, these are the ancestors that share a language root with us as English speakers, prayed not only with offerings, incense fire, and libations, but with words. Even when ritual involved physical offerings, spoken word was central to the practice. Words activated the offerings, named the offerings. They named them with intention. Words were how we bridged human experience to the divine. And in these cultures, speaking was doing. To name a thing was to shape it, and to speak a prayer was to create a sacred moment and to bring something into being that wasn't there before we named it with breath. So speech was powerful. The priestly function in Indo-European society, for those familiar with the Dumasilian functions, was inherently tied to the mastery of speech. The spoken formula was just as important as the ritual gesture. In the Vedic tradition, for example, mantra is considered not just speech, but a form of action, a form of ritual action. The Sanskrit root man means to think, and tram implies instrument. So mantra was literally a tool of the mind. Speech was one of our ritual tools, and it's something that we still have and can implement today. So across cultures, we see prayer serving three primary functions. The first is essentially to create order from chaos. In many Indo-European cosmologies, the world begins in chaos. Primal, wild, unformed waters. We know these images from mythologies. And this primal chaos becomes ordered in many of these cosmologies through divine speech or intentional action. So language is the means by which the cosmos is given meaning and structure. It's the means by which it's called into being. Human prayer in pagan ritual can mirror that. So the Indo-European mythos often hinges on this idea of word as Watkins uses the term civilizing force, but a tool that makes the world intelligible and livable, we'll say, rather than civilizing. A couple of other examples of this are the Homeric hymns in Greece. They often begin with invocations, and these were carefully constructed praises and petitions that were meant to set the stage for divine human contact. It was calling into being and structuring ritual space with formulaic language. In the Celtic word, we find a similar reverence for poetic structured speech. The Fílíd, the poet priests of early Ireland, held spiritual and legal authority because of their command of the imbas fornos words. A word in Irish that I'm not going to be able to pronounce today, I guess. I'm so sorry. I should have put pronunciation notes in my notes. But this was a poetic talent that was said to grant prophetic visions and knowledge. But again, it was so we see another mythological practice and cultural practice that recognized structured speech as granting knowledge and knowledge of an ordered cosmos. So there's that sort of subset of functions of speech in Indo-European practices. The second overall function that we see is just to ask for blessings. This is the kind of prayer that even our monotheistic friends understand. This is what most people in the dominant overculture now think of when they think of prayer. Just asking for things: fertility, rain, harvest, children, protection. And these weren't guaranteed, and our predecessors understood that about prayer. But prayer was a way of naming the need and invoking a power to fulfill it. Sometimes merely naming our desires is powerful. Sometimes merely being able to name what it is that success would look like for us right now is powerful. So even if we're not looking at prayer as transactional, we are asking for a thing such that it will be given to us, merely naming our desires and our hopes into existence changes something in us. So this was another function of prayer: words that are used to speak directly to the kindreds in the hope of reciprocity and in the hope of in the goal of naming that which is success for us, that which we seek. That's our second predominant function. And then the final function I wanted to talk about is to give thanks. Sometimes we speak not because we're looking for something, not because we are ritualistically recreating the cosmos in an Indo-European mirror myth. Sometimes it's simply speaking from gratitude. Prayer isn't just about asking, it's a tool for expressing gratitude, and that in and of itself can, according to the Indo-European myth structure, maintain cosmic and social balance. So a couple of examples. In pre-Christian Celtic society, giving thanks often took place at holy wells, sacred groves, or during festivals like Imbolc or Lunasa. So we see thanks not just happening sporadically, but at places that are defined as sacred geographically by a culture, or at times that are auspicious. The stars are in position for this thanks, as Road to El Dorado. It's fine. So giving thanks was given this additional significance of geographic locality and temporal locality. So at these times, offerings were often left. We know all the offerings: butter, coins, a lot of cream. But words were also spoken aloud with those offerings to name and sanctify the act. So in that tradition, spoken blessings or poems were thought to strengthen the link between the mortal and other world. In Norse culture, we see a similar practice of gratitude in a ritual form in the blot ritual. After victory in a battle or a successful harvest, the Norse people might hold a blot to thank the gods. The Sumbel ritual, same is similar, where individuals would stand and make boasts, oaths, and thanksgivings, which would include direct praise or thanks to the gods or ancestors. So across several of these cultures, we're seeing this similar pattern, that gratitude was not just felt, but it was spoken ritualistically at times and places of ritual significance. So to thank the kindreds at any time is an act of piety, but to thank the kindreds in these moments of ritual significance was to maintain right relationship and the structural integrity of the cosmos that we interact within. It's just how humans hold up our side of that sacred web of reciprocity. So those are the three main functions we see in Indo-European cultures. And we see this time and time again, that our ancestors not only, burned herbs and poured wine and did all of the orthopraxic doing things that are part of our practice. Often in modern paganism, people can get into the trap of feeling like orthopraxy, right doing, requires right having. You got to have the right, I can't reach my bowls, but you got to have the right bowls, got to have the right candles, got to have the right things. That was never all it was about. And if we reduce our practice to having the right things without proper intention behind it and without the language or the right feeling behind it, and right feeling can be expressed in prayer, it can be expressed in this language that we want to participate in writing today. The stuff is just stuff. And the tradition shows us that. It shows us that the words used in ritual reinforce the function of the stuff. It also shows us something sociological, that prayer reinforces a sense of belonging in these communities. To know the right words and to participate in their speaking is to take part in a community's shared identity. When we say all waters are by the very nature sacred, we are participating in a communal function using language that resonates with all of us, that is familiar to us as a community. And that can be a valuable, powerful ritual tool, familiar language that creates a sense of belonging. So to know the right words and participate in their speaking lets us take part in a community's shared identity. So in all of these ways, speaking prayer lets us participate in the sacred structure of the world and to reinforce your place in the community and align yourself with the kindreds and the cosmos. That's what we're doing. So that's why historically Indo-Europeans prayed. So if we pull that forward to modern pagans, we still pray for those same reasons. Even if our altars look different and our words are our own, we use prayer to bring order to chaos. When we light a candle and speak our intentions, we're shaping, whether we believe we're shaping energy or grounding ourselves or calling clarity into the world. We're participating in this oral tradition to bring order to chaos. We pray for blessings and we still give thanks through spoken words, offerings, or daily devotions, recognizing that gratitude is part of maintaining a right relationship with the sacred forces around us, even in a modern setting. So some people have spoken to this already, but much of the stress and anxiety around speaking roles in rituals as modern pagans or praying out loud in a group stems from the fear of saying the wrong thing. And sometimes, to reiterate, there truly is some value in knowing the right words, the old, well-worn words. Repeating those familiar phrases creates rhythm and focus and allows participants to enter a shared ritual experience or group mind. Again, all waters are by their very nature sacred. This does something for us that can be valuable. Structured prayers often offer a common framework where everyone understands their role and can ease nerves and let us deepen connections because we're not worried about saying the right or wrong thing. We know the script. Familiar language can also be a kind of spiritual muscle memory. It grounds us, it links us to each other and to the ritual that we're conducting. Whether so these familiar words, I don't want to cast them aside because they do build social cohesion and shared ritual mind. However, prayer does not have to be inherited or prescribed to be a valid part of ritual. It can be spontaneous, it can be unplanned, it can be pre-written or improvised in the moment as the ritual speaks to you. In any case, however the words are coming out of you, our words remain a powerful ritual tool. They focus our will, they help us create sacred space, and in using them, even if we are using our own words and not these practiced, inherited historical words, simply by speaking prayer in a ritual setting, we are stepping into the same current of practice and tradition that flowed from the mouths of our ancestors that shared this practice. We are becoming co-creators in a living, evolving practice. So I would encourage all of you to lean into the discomfort of having the wrong words, because that's how new prayer can speak to a group and become the words that create group mind and familiarity in future rituals. We're still participating in the same tradition, no matter what words we're speaking into ritual. As long as they're coming from orthopathy, as long as they're coming from right feeling, we can practice the right words later. And that's supported by the history of these traditions. So I've got a couple of examples. Rachel spoke a little bit about this already. In the ADF community, there is an annual tradition of prayer a day in November, where people participate by writing a prayer a day and posting them to a shared group. I believe some people do it privately anyway, but just as a way to show how many examples of valid prayer there are, and to encourage people who have maybe not participated in this practice before to try their hand at it. So I've got, Missy, I'm opening your folder on the drive. So here's some examples. So this is just one way if you want to start experimenting with writing prayer and getting feedback from a really supportive community. I highly recommend participating in the November Prayer Day project. You'll see a lot of different examples of people praying to people who might be unfamiliar to you, or praying in a format that you haven't seen before. What else have we got? This is a good example of the 4-part formats of name them, bright and shining moon, why we think you're cool, helping us to remember the hope of light even the darkest times, ask for a thing, may your face shine upon us in the long nights, and then, hey, you're awesome again, and name them at the end. This is a really classic, approachable 4-part impromptu prayer that anyone can put together. And that's what we're gonna, I think that's what we're gonna start with next. I think Jackie's gonna.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna show off something in a second. But yeah, so I want to kind of go over just the anatomy of a prayer, which Jane was also sort of getting into. There's sort of parts you can break it up into. And I'm gonna share my screen first. I have to have the right thing up. Hang on. order of operations. Okay, so this is from Reverend Jana Vende's blog. They're also the one who started Prayer a Day, as was mentioned in the chat. But this is one of their like templates for writing an invocation. It starts off, hey, you're a god. Here's why you're awesome. We are honoring you on this day. Here is your offering. It's appropriate to give you this for this celebration because of reasons. And here's how it's going to be given to you and how you will receive it. Yay, God, take your gift. So it's a little funny. It's a little silly, but that's all intentional, right? Because these are just the pieces of our prayer. Naming the God, saying something about them, and again, the God could be replaced with anything, right? In this example, it's a God. But God, the being, or the theme, whatever it is, why you're awesome. Here's something you've done. Maybe there's something in the lore or some personal connection you have, and you can name that. And then you can say things like, you know, it's this holiday and we're giving you a thing. And then here's the thing we're giving you. And then how it is given, or like what we'll do with the offering. And then you say thanks at the end. Or yay, God, take your gift. So that's sort of one template, one bullet point. And I'm going to share this in the chat as well. Give me 1 minute just to throw it in the chat. But it's a great little template. And as maybe a slightly more simplified version of this, we can think of saying, of giving it 4 parts, giving any kind of prayer 4 parts. You introduce the being, you say why they're cool, you make an ask, and then you say thanks, right? So 4 parts. Hello, you're cool for these reasons. Here's what I would like. Thank you so much. And keeping it as a template, however complicated or simple you want to make that template, gives you a path, right? From point A, B, C, D, to just know what kind of thing you're going to say next in your prayer. And that's especially useful for like an impromptu prayer that you speak. But even when you're writing prayers, it's good to have some idea of like, where am I going with this, right? Like, how is this going to work? How do I start? How do I end? What do I say in between? So breaking up a prayer into different sections can make it much less intimidating and can help you think about it while you're writing it out. Sometimes it's fun to just sort of feel it and do a stream of consciousness thing, which is great, but especially for impromptu spoken prayer, or if you really want something that is cohesive maybe, or good for ritual, or for some other purpose you have, breaking it up into pieces, however many pieces you want, whichever parts would be important to you. Again, Jen's invocation template has like, here's this celebration, and here's how we're going to give the offering to you, which is more than the 4 parts I described. So you can make this work however you would want, and whatever's important for a specific time of year, a specific celebration, or a specific project you have, whether it's doing all 30 days of prayer a day, or some ancestor ritual that you're trying to work on, or some sort of other holiday. So however you want to break it up, and however you want to think about it as a sort of template or pathway to get through the whole prayer, is just the idea we're going for. So again, the very simple 4 parts is introduce the being, say why they're cool, make an ask, and say thanks. So those 4 pieces. And then one other note, and this is more useful for ritualistic prayer or impromptu spoken prayer, it's okay to pause. It's okay to take the time to think in your head of like, okay, what am I doing next? And I'd encourage people to not be stressed about that pause, because it feels much longer in your own head than it does to anyone else listening. So lean in to to that silence. And as I believe Reverend Michael said, who is another Korean priest, it adds a level of gravitas And he's good at that. You'll notice if you ever hear him, he pauses a lot in his prayers. So I think we could all learn from that. So don't feel afraid to just like take a minute to recap and think where you're going next. Pause to think of what part of the prayer you want to say next, what you want to include or not include, how you want to phrase something. It is okay to like just take a moment, and it will feel much longer to you than it does to anyone else listening. So don't be afraid of the pause in prayer. So at this point, if there are any questions about anything that Jane was saying during her bit about the history of prayer and how we can use prayer today, or anything about anatomy of a prayer, if folks had questions, would love to take a couple. But if not, we can just keep on going to our activities.
I did have a little bit of a question just because I'm trying to take notes as we're going. So,
Absolutely.
um, so it was to introduce, say why they're cool, make an ask of them, and then say thanks, basically, right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Again, it's not strict, but it is like the simplest I could think of it. So you can
Hey,
build
it
off
makes
that base. All right, then. Do we want to get to the activity?
Sure. So we are going to do a couple of different activities today. The f and before we jump into that, or as we jump into that, let me drop. Rachel, did you raise your hand? Did you have a question?
Intentionally, yes. I wanted to say something real quick just to give a different perspective. Um, so while I think the formula is absolutely phenomenal and it's great and it's totally useful, I would like to just point out that like sometimes when I pray because I'm scared, and I sort of skip over the part about like, hey gods, y'all are cool. I skip that part. I skip that part because I'm scared shitless. This especially happens when I'm on a plane. Everybody in this group knows I don't fly. I don't like flying. I hate flying. If I could just stay on the ground, I would be ecstatic. But I become the most religious person on the fucking planet when I am in a plane and that plane hits turbulence. Okay. I'm over here just being like, gods, please keep me safe. Just keep me and everybody else on this plane so safe. Okay. I skip over everything. We can get to the formal prayers and the formal offerings when I get back on the land. But in that moment, and there are moments throughout all of our lives when we're just a little scared, and it takes us some time to just say, please be with me in this time of fear. Please give me the courage that I need to get through this. Please be with me, right? And so sometimes that is all I do. Sometimes, like, the formula is great, I'm not hating on it, but sometimes the prayer is, please just hold me and be with me as I go through this hard thing. Because we can do hard things, but sometimes we need to acknowledge that the thing we are doing is hard. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
I really appreciate that as a statement. Because there are a lot of ways that that formula can look, and what you're saying you're doing is not all that dissimilar from the formula. You're just not doing the like, I'm gonna give a bunch of names and titles, but you're still doing some of those core pieces. You are requesting something from a place of need, connection, desire, relationship. And in some part of that, you probably have some kind of, and maybe not always, I certainly don't always neatly close out my prayers, something that's like, please, yes, please, which is also a way to end a prayer, not necessarily a, here's my tidy offering or a thank you, but just a, oh God, whatever is listening, please keep me safe. Please. That formula. You are maybe not doing it the same way, but it's all those same pieces. So there are a bunch of different ways that those pieces can look um, when we are praying. And I have a few like versions of that I can share, but that are the ones that I use most often. But first, because I don't think everybody was here when I first dropped it in, forgive the certain amount of bias in this Google document, and we need to remember to include it with the recording when we put that up. But this document, which is meant to be a living document, so please feel free to add to it, is a list of some of the major deities from the Irish, the Greek, and the Norse, which is why I said it's a little biased, because those are the ones I happen to run into the most often myself and or with the people I hang with. That includes what we can think of as those why you're cool reasons. And I will share my screen real quick. But essentially, right, they are, you know, if I want to call Lou, and I'm really, who's Irish deity, who is known as many skilled, he was a master of many arts and skills. So if I'm learning something new, if I'm about to demonstrate some skill that I'm new at, and I'm super anxious or whatever the case may be, I might want to call on him. And if I don't, especially if I'm preparing ahead of time, sitting down and having this sense of these are the major deeds and tasks, the major things that are one of the reasons he was celebrated, that maybe give rise to common names for him in the culture in which he arose. That can help me formulate the part of the prayer that is, hi, God X, this is why you're cool. Now I have a list of the reasons why this person might be cool to me in this moment that I can kind of reference back to. And that's actually, I think, the thing that made prayer writing easiest for me over time was with beings that I pray to a lot. I have a sense of their lore, their common epithets, the things that they were called and celebrated for most often, what they're really good at, and my UPG, my unverified personal gnosis, my experiences with them in relationships. So, for example, Briege, I usually call her the one who flames and flows in me because that references our long-term relationship and how I experience her. So we can have these epithets that not just connect us, as Jane said, to culture and history, but to our own history and unique relationships. And with that, we want to transition into practicing doing some actual prayer writing. We had thought that we might start by doing some individual crafting of a prayer solo for about 10 minutes, just taking some time to quietly write down a prayer to a being, which is why we wanted to prepare a bit of a list. If there's someone specific, this might give you, if they're on the list, a starting place for some of that. And about 5 minutes in, 7 minutes, and I'll give a warning that we're going to wrap up. And then hopefully some people will want to share their prayers because we'd all love to hear them. And that practice of sharing is a big and important part of it. Any questions, thoughts before we take a moment just to work on our prayers? Okay. Then let's take about 5-7 minutes to write something, and I'll give a bit of a warning here in a minute when we're preparing to wrap up and share.
If we want to pause the recording, I can share ambient music.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you, Jane, for that lovely ambiance. We appreciate it. Would anybody, first of all, does everybody feel ready to come back together? It's okay if you need another moment or two. And if so, does anybody feel open to sharing what they have written?
I could share. I'd be cool with that.
Thank you.
So, as many of you know, I work in a library. It's kind of what I do every day. And so I've been wanting to, I have a little like owl statue, like little trinket thing for Minerva in my cubicle. And I've been wanting to come up with a prayer to Minerva that I could say like every Monday or Tuesday, the beginning of every week. So I might have come up with it. I don't know. I like it. I like this so far. I might work on it more. So, this is to Minerva. I tell it to Minerva the libraries. Owl-eyed Minerva, patron of all crafts, goddess of the library, help me make wise decisions, to prioritize what needs to be done this week, to keep what should be kept, to add what should be added, to discard what should be left. Thank you for your guidance and your wisdom. So yeah, just short and sweet. I used some of the epithets for Athena, because of course there's a lot of the Romans like just took a lot of associations from the Greeks because they thought they were cool. So I did do some of that with the beginning of that location.
That was lovely, Jackie. Thank you for sharing. Rachel?
Yeah, I'll go next if that's okay. So I'm in this period of transition. I'm job hunting. I'm feeling like I'm ready to like start dating in earnest. So I'm doing a lot of that. I'm building my career. And so I'm just finding myself in this like this liminal space of unknown of what will happen, but knowing that that's where I am, that I'm in this period of liminal space and transition. Kindred 3, you who know the plans for all the children of earth, may you be with me as I traverse these transitions. May you keep my mind and my heart open as I walk through these transitions. May I be curious and intrigued as change occurs around and within me. Kindred 3, may I continue to be kind, caring, and compassionate to myself and others as I navigate this period of change. Kindred 3, may you accept these offerings of smoke, coin, and oil and bless me in turn. Kindred 3, for all your aid, full honor, and thanks. Kindred 3, I thank you. So for me, I didn't use the epitaphs that you listed, but I do use the structure that I think Mountain Ancestors has come to know with regards to the Kindred 3 and saying thank you in the what I know as the magpie way. I don't know what the cranes say as they end their prayers. I'd be curious to compare notes. But I really like the words that Rev Missy, Rev William, Rev Lauren, Rev Z have given us. I find comfort in using those words. It feels like a way to connect with the rest of you because it's a shared language that we all use. So yeah.
That's lovely. And such a wonderful illustration of the way that communal words can bring so much meaning and connection to what we say. Raise, raise. I was reading Raised Your Hand and Rose at the same time. Rose.
Okay, so I did write specifically to Odin. Um, Odin, master of knowledge and wisdom, All-Father, Lord of knowledge and memory, take me under your wing and guide me on this path, so every footfall is on solid ground and every action the wisest choice. All-Father, I honor your entry into my life and am grateful for your wisdom.
That's lovely. And Odin was one of those who you were sharing at the beginning you'd really like to begin to develop some liturgy with. Thank you for sharing. Would anybody else like to share?
I'm willing to share that I'm not done. Uh, so I got as I'm plugging into a new place. That's always hard. So all of my relationships are wonky, all of my practices wonky, all of my it's all wonky. Um, I used to have strong relationships with the allies of my garden, but that's very place-based in New Hampshire. Now I'm in Louisiana with no garden, uh, and not I'm struggling to like plug into my outdoor space, and I have no relationship with Demeter, which might be why I'm struggling to write a prayer to introduce myself to Demeter. But I got as far as Demeter, golden lady of the harvest, earth mother who tends grain from planting to harvest, you who preside over the sacred laws of cyclical life and death, comma. So sometimes that's how it turns out. I'll keep working on it.
Thank you for being willing to illustrate that it's a process and that we often cannot write the thing that we want to write in the 10 minutes of our activity. And also that was really beautiful.
I can share since it looks like I'm left. So I have spent a lot of time building what we call the sacred tool belt, or the fanny pack of knowledge, or whatever it is that you want to envision as a way for you to carry around little bits and pieces that you can use to shove together to make something. It's kind of like the choose your own adventure version of writing prayers and doing liturgy. Because when I'm in front of a lot of people, especially people I don't know, I get very manic and I start to wander in my speaking, and then I end up saying a lot of words that don't actually mean anything. And so giving myself waypoints along the path helps me to be grounded in what it is I'm trying to say and make sure that I'm actually making a point and not wasting everybody's time, especially the divine. That being said, this fine Saturday is a day of cleaning things and managing my house, and I saw that the moon still in the front of my shrine here, and so I decided to write a prayer to the moon. And I had to make offerings. I was really good writing music. Okay, this is my new tablet. So let me make sure I can find what I just. Great and shining moon, whose glowing face illuminates the land. The child of the earth stands cradled in her hands, with your light upon my brow to sing your praises this night. I come before you, bowed and reverent, in thanks for the path I see before me. Without your willingness to reflect the sun's rays while she is yet far away, I would be clothed in darkness and consumed by doubt, and I would not know my way. In your gentle presence, I seek the wisdom of time, rocking with the ebb and flow of the waves created by your whirling dance as you circumambulate the earth. Great and shining moon, be welcome here at my fire, whose light appears as but a spark compared to your radiance. Please accept this offering of sweet smoke rising toward you in the heavens, and know it comes with my love and devotion. Sacred moon, I honor you. Sacred moon, accept my offering.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, it turned out pretty cool. So some of those are typical waypoints. So when I write a prayer, I typically start with the say something to distinguish this being from all of the beings that could possibly hear your voice. So, like first name and then last name. Like if I'm calling out to a sea of Janes, I want to say Jane Webster, previous senior druid of Mountain Ancestors Grove, who now resides in the gentle earth known as Louisiana, so that Jane knows I'm specifically talking to her. And then why am I here? What is it that I want from you? And then a nice way to end it that feels reverent and that reminds us that we're in that presence and building relationship with a being. And so all of your pleases and thank yous and everything that you give to the humanity, you also give to the divine. So that's kind of how I go through that. So it dovetailed nicely into all the things that you guys said. So this was really, really what I needed this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. And I love that idea of waypoints. That's really helpful because I do the same thing with the suddenly I'm talking. And did that make any sense to anybody? And oh my gosh.
Also, apparently, if I leave Zoom to open my little notes app, it turns off my camera. That was weird. Okay.
I guess I can share mine real quick to Breege, of course, because who else do I ever write prayers to? Breege, bright lady who flames and flows in me, I come before you in exigency. My own flame gutters, my wellspring has run dry. Exalted Breege, I kneel at your hearth. I kneel at your well. Kindle in me the spark of hope. Let the waters flow through these cracks, that I may turn my head, heart, and hands to my work in the worlds. Beloved Breege, thank you. And we have one more activity, which should be really fun if everybody feels open to it, which is that we're gonna write a prayer together. Just one line at a time from each of us. Does everybody feel down for that?
Yay, I'm in.
Awesome. Do we have any suggestions, thoughts, preferences for yes. Love that, Missy. Prayer by committee. Does our committee have any shared goals in our prayer writing today? We can do it by vote democratically, or we can be a bit more tyrannical about it and just pick one.
Rose says, hope for the world. I'm in.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Does Rose feel open to starting us off?
Oh no.
That is totally fine.
Do we call in the Reverend to start us off?
You're right.
That I'm happy to. I'm happy to go wherever, beginning, end, middle. So hope for the world. So now we know what we want to ask for. Who do we want to ask for this?
All the kindreds?
I second all the kindreds and the spirit of inspiration.
Inspiration's good.
Well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And field trip.
And maybe we should have each person popcorn to someone else,
Oh, I like that idea.
so we know who goes next.
Love that.
I think that is a great idea. Do we each want to just be responsible for one line? So whoever gets us to the end, whoever's last to be popcorn to, is making our closing sentence.
Yes, that sounds like the easiest way to do it.
I will caveat all of this with the first and the last are the easiest parts to do. It's the stuff in the middle that gets more difficult. So I'm happy to still go first if you want. But I'm giving you an out if you want one. Okay. I'm going to say more than a couple sentences so we can all get that juice flowing, just because I think that would be useful. Children of Earth, take a moment to find your center, resting in the knowledge that we have been receiving with inspiration shining down upon us, inspiring our words and aiding us as we do this work to grow in speech and in prayer as we build relationship with the divine. We call out now to the spirits of inspiration and to all three of the kindred, to the shining gods, goddesses, and deities on high, to the nature kin who stand around us, to the ancestors who've gone before us. Join us round this fire and hear our words. Who wants to go next?
Rev, I think you have to pick a name.
Oh, Jean does.
Kindreds all, shining allies, you who see our place in the cosmos from a stance and perspective so beyond our own, for those times when we cannot see the next bright step, the next bright light on our path. Grant us a measure of your vision such that we may see a glimmer of hope to stretch for along the path and the branches of the Zartooth. Help us see the next best step in our journey through the cosmos. Jackie.
May you aid all who suffer. May you heal all those who need healing. May you inspire all of us to lean into hope. May your love and warmth and guidance connect all of us around the world to each other and to you. Amy.
I've been doing my best to catch notes of this. I have not succeeded, but if somebody will try to note what comes out of my mouth so I don't record just typing. It is, in fact, recorded, Jackie. Kindred's all, we come before you with hungry hearts, with open hands, with wondering minds and wandering feet. Help us to find those paths which are ours to walk, those tasks which are ours to do, the words which are ours to speak into the world, which kindle hope in ourselves, in each other, inspire us and nourish us, that we may flourish together as a human community and the wider community of all that is in the cosmos. Rachel.
Kindreds all, may you grant us the courage and the moral responsibility to stand up for ourselves and others in these uncertain times. May you remind us that there are others like us who are kind, caring, and compassionate. May you remind us that when we feel alone, that others provide the light that extends hope in and around us. May we remember that we are stronger together in community than we are by ourselves. Rose.
Um, Kindred 3, thank you for being with us on today and in all days and continuing to guide us and provide wisdom in the way to speak and the way to act and the way to support. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for the spirits of inspiration. Thank you for guiding our tongues and guiding our words and guiding our hearts in doing what is right and what is best for all. Thank you.
Kindreds all, accept our offerings.
Kindreds all, accept our offerings.
Y'all, that worked out really good.
Awesome, guys.
So I'm absolutely, I was going to try to write it all down and read it back. That was the original plan, but it was, got a little away from me. I don't type that fast, so I'll go back and try to get all the words that I missed from everybody. I just want to name how beautifully that came together and how every single voice in that prayer both wove those threads together into something really meaningful and was so utterly distinct in the words, the focus. Like when it was Rachel speaking, I know it was them speaking, not just because it was Rachel's voice, but because that was so utterly Rachel and Jane and Jackie. And I don't know you very well, Rose, but there was, I feel like I have a flavor of who you are in the beautiful words that you have spoken to today. And I just want to name that, and that when we pray in community, it doesn't all have to sound like each other. It can be that weaving of everybody together that makes it so beautiful.
I want to emphasize that, Amy. I think that sometimes there, especially if you have like long tenured people in your circle or in your grove, there is a pressure to be performative and to mirror the way that those who speak the most speak to everybody else. Like you'll hear a lot of people in Stone Creed who sound like Ian. You hear a lot of people in the Cranes who sound like Michael and Jan, who sound like each other. Part of it is because they have a shared prayer language and they pray together often. But there's also this way that our mirror neurons in our brains tell us to learn from other people. And as you get more comfortable with these things, we give better when we give of ourselves and not what other people are giving. So finding your way back to your own voice in ritual space and making sure that we have a diversity of voices echoing through the fire is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to the kindreds. Be yourself. Don't be afraid to pause or to stumble on your words. And if you don't sound like everybody else, good. Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
We love your TED Talk. And I'm noticing the time. We're right towards the end. And so Jackie, if you would like to, oh no, sorry, Rachel, I cannot read. I was looking at Jackie and said Jackie instead of Rachel. Rachel, if you'd like to just wrap us up, we'd love that.
That sounds great. Sorry, give me a second. I'm still on the Mac, so I got to switch between screens. Oh, damn. I closed out my Word document. All right, I guess I will try this from off the cuff. When we were originally planning to okay, yeah, hold on, sorry, give me a minute.
I could also read off some of the stuff to give you a minute to bring it up if you want.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Okay. So Amy was right. So just to wrap up some of what we've been talking about. Part of the reason we wanted to do this whole series, and Tracy couldn't join us today, but part of the reason that we wanted to do this with Tracy of Three Cranes Grove and why we thought this was important is because we wanted to make ritual more accessible. We wanted to make all of the stuff surrounding ritual easier for people to just dive into. And so part of that with prayer is just being comfortable starting, being comfortable beginning, being comfortable with like maybe not being able to complete a prayer the way you'd want to, or just having to do something off the cuff and having to make it up as you go along. And so being more comfortable with that discomfort is one of the ways you can just open yourself up to just praying, which I would argue is very important. So hopefully this whole class has been helpful for this component of ritual. And along with our two other classes, it makes just getting into prayer more easy.
Cool. That's really helpful. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah.
I did want to bring up some final thoughts kind of about these exercises that we've done today. And I want to talk a little bit about some ways that participants can continue to use this framework, right? Three Cranes, as well as MAG, often use a invitation method for ritual where we ask folks if they would like to speak or take a role or a speaking part during ritual. Now that you all know that you don't have to be perfect when you are speaking from your heart, and that your words and your voice are what is absolutely needed and valued around the fire, I would strongly encourage you, if you feel called by the spirit of inspiration, if you feel called by your ancestors, if you feel called by the landkin, if you feel called by the shining ones to take a role and speak and say what is on your heart. Often our ritual leaders will provide a script, and that is also still perfectly acceptable. But I would strongly encourage you to step into circle and be a part of the community as we build ritual together. I also do want to circle back to prayer day. I don't know if that has been added to the chat.
It was.
Awesome. Thank you. That's ironic, Rev Missy, but okay. So prayer a day, as a lot of us have mentioned, is also a really great opportunity to like continue to develop your skills in writing prayers. What you will notice throughout, it starts November 1st and goes until the end of the month. But just because it occurs in November does not mean that if you have a prayer that's on your heart that you want to share with the community, it does not mean that it needs to wait until November. So if you are really interested and really intrigued in writing prayers and like using words to speak to the kindred three or the spirits of inspiration or the full moon or the earth mother, or any number of deities and spirits, I would encourage you to look through that Facebook group, see what others have written, or just sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and write what is on your heart. And if you feel so called, share it with the rest of the group. You will notice that a lot of us really do like to get into the graphic design element of prayer day. And so we often will do a lot of very cool graphic designs and use things like Canva or Adobe Express. Sometimes I will make maps specifically just to make maps because that's what I do. So you'll see a lot of graphics, but you don't need all of that to share a prayer that's on your heart, right? So just you could take a photo of a piece of lined paper with some words scribbled on it, and that would be perfectly acceptable. Again, when we show up in front of our gods, when we show up in front of these spirits, when we show up in front of community, we do so as ourselves, whatever that looks like in that specific moment. So I would encourage you to take a look at Prayer Day. I think it's a really cool community. I think it's a really fun activity that we all get to do in November. Are there any questions so far just from this time together?
Pro tip to add, Rachel, for people who want to make a graphic, you don't actually have to download anything. You can go into Google and pull up any picture that you have. You can put a text box over it and then put your prayer in it. And then you can actually take a screenshot of it once it's done. And then ta-da, you've saved a picture that you can use. And all of that comes readily available on phones and on any tablet or laptop that you have. The snipping tool is what it's called in Windows. I know there's a similar thing on the Mac side. But don't feel like if you want to make a graphic that you have to buy or download some weird program you've never used before.
That is also a really good point. Thank you, Reverend. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Going once, going twice, 3 times. All right. So all of these classes have been recorded. They are available for you on the MAG YouTube channel. Jackie, Jane, Amy, how long does it take to get a recording on to the YouTube channel? Can one of you let me know?
Once Zoom processes the recording, I don't know exactly how long that usually takes. That's usually a couple of hours. It takes then a couple more hours to process onto YouTube. So if we're on top of our game, we could have it up in like 24 hours.
Cool. Okay.
Captions might take longer.
That's fair. So just know that this will be on the YouTube channel probably in the next week or so. We'll give our community leaders some wiggle room. because life does happen. But in the meantime, while you're waiting for this class, feel free to go back and watch the other 2 classes. There's a lot of good wisdom and information in those other 2 classes, and it'd be great if you wanted to watch that. Speaking of classes, we do have our next community class, which is called Transplanting Place-Based Paganism, on October 25th by our very own Jane Webster. So we're pretty excited about that. I'm excited to attend that. Yeah. So October 25th, please put that on your calendars. Also, everyone, thank you so much for just being a part of this class with us. It has been so great to see all of you. It's been great to hear your voices and share in the beauty that is prayer. It's been wonderful.
Thank you all so much. I'm going to stop recording.